Hello friends, uh, today we are going to cover the below session upgrade server and server migration. In this slide we will have a theory session first, then we will conduct the practical. So let's start. This is something about me. Okay, so we are going to discuss on upgrading servers today. Okay, so we need to know what is the process to upgrade a server edition. So let's go ahead. An in-place upgrade is the most complicated from Windows Server 2012 installation. Okay, so we heard about a new term here that is called in-place upgrade. So we will discuss what is in-place upgrade later on. But for now, you have to know it is also the lengthiest process. Okay, in-place upgrade is also a lengthiest process and most likely to cause problem during exclusion. So whenever you are trying to upgrade a server in 2012 using in-place upgrade, this is also a complex situation. So this is a critical task as well. So you may encounter some problems, or the exclusions may create problems sometimes. Wherever possible, Microsoft recommends that administrator perform a clean installation. So whatever the Microsoft recommends to use a clean installation process or migrate roles, application and settings. That means instead doing in-place upgrade, you can also do a fresh installation of an operating system and then migrate whatever role, whatever installation, whatever application you want to migrate. So this is the recommended way by Microsoft. Although in-place upgrades often proceed smoothly, even if you can follow the checklist, if you can have a great understanding on in-place upgrade, then you can do the in-place upgrade smoothly. The only benefit in in-place upgrade, you need not to create any other instance. That means, suppose you have a Windows Server 2008 R2 standard edition file server installed in your environment. Now you need to upgrade the operating system from 2008 R2 to 2012 R2. So what is the process will be? The process will be in-place upgrade. If you follow the procedure of in-place upgrade and you do the in-place upgrade, you need not require any more server instance. So this is the benefit. Although you can upgrade using the in-place upgrade. Okay. So we will discuss what is in-place upgrade in our later videos. So let's continue here. The complexity of the upgrade process and large number of variables involved means there are many things that can partially go wrong. So before do a in-place upgrade, there is certain thing you have to keep in mind. Okay, that which of that thing we will discuss in next slide. To minimize the risk involved, the importance of an administrator to take upgrade process seriously, very seriously. Whenever you are upgrading a server from 2008 R2 to 2012, you have to prepare yourself very seriously. Prepare the system beforehand and have the ability to troubleshoot any problems that migration arise. So before you do a migration, you should have prepared yourself for the troubleshooting. That means in case you are doing a migration on a production environment and you face a issue. So in that scenario, you have to troubleshoot the issue and you have to fix it. So before do any migration, that always keep in mind, you have to take it very seriously and you should be prepared for any troubleshoot related task before doing this migration. If any issue arises during the migration, you have to do your own troubleshooting and solve the issue. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Upgrade paths. So basically this slide is designed for to have a great understanding, to have a brief understanding on which are the server edition can be migrated and what are the server edition we cannot. So let's begin. Upgrade paths for Windows Server 2012 are quite limited. This is the first line, first sentence. Okay, this is very important. Upgrade paths of Windows Server 2012 are quite limited. That means we cannot upgrade each and every version of backdated operating system in 2012. So there is certain process we have to follow. In fact, it's easier to specify when you can perform an upgrade than when you cannot. So this is very easy to specify when you can perform the upgrade or when you cannot. If you have a 64-bit computer running with Windows Server 2008 or Windows Server 2008 R2, then you can upgrade it to Windows Server 2012 as long as use the same operating system edition. So this is a very critical part. Suppose in your environment, if you have a Windows Server 2008 or 2008 R2 standard edition and you want to migrate or upgrade that particular thing to Windows Server 2012 data center edition, it will not work. Okay, so to get this done, you also keep in mind that if you are using Windows Server 2008 R2 edition in standard, then you have to upgrade it on Windows Server 2012 standard edition only. One more critical thing is, as x86 versions are no longer supported by Windows Server 2012. So in that case, if you have a Windows Server 2008 32-bit edition, in that case you cannot proceed for the upgrade. So you must have a 64-bit operating system to perform a in-place upgrade. So next, Windows Server 2012 does not support the following. So before do any migration, any Windows Server upgrade, in-place upgrade, you always keep in mind that the below points. Okay, the first point is upgrade from Windows Server version prior to Windows Server 2008. That means 2012 server only support migration from Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2. If you have a Windows Server 2003 and you want to upgrade it on 2012, then you have to follow the migration path. Migration path. What is migration path? Migration path means, as per Microsoft, a 2003 server cannot be upgraded directly from 2003 to 2012. You have to upgrade it first on 2008, then you can upgrade another, you perform another upgrade task from 2008 to 2012. This is called a upgrade path. So you have to follow that. The second point is upgrade from pre-RTM editions of Windows Server 2012. That means if you have any RTM edition, pre-RTM edition installed on environment and you want to upgrade in 2012 server, standard, data center or any other version, so that will not work. The third is upgrade from Windows workstation operating system. That means if you have any Windows 10 operating system, Windows 7 operating system, and now you want to upgrade it on 2012, this is also not going to be work. Cross edition upgrades such as Windows Server Enterprise to Windows Server 2012 data center, that will not work. That means if you have Windows Server 2008 data center edition and you want to upgrade it on Windows Server 2012 data center, that is possible. But if there is any change in version like enterprise, data center, standard, so any cross edition updates will not be supported. Cross-platform upgrades. Cross-platform upgrades means such as 32-bit and 64-bit is the cross-platform. Okay. If you have a Windows Server 2008 32-bit operating system and you want to upgrade it on 64-bit Windows Server 2012 Standard Edition, that will not work because the platform is different. One is 32-bit, another is 64-bit. That is different. Next is upgrade from any Eternium edition. If you have any Eternium edition installed on any server and you want to upgrade in on 2012, that will not be no longer supported. Cross-language upgrade. This is very important. Such as if you have a Windows Server 2008 US English language and you want to migrate it on Windows Server 2012 France, that will not work. Okay, that means the language should be same during migration. Okay, during upgrade you have to think about the language as well. In any of these cases, Windows setup program will not permit you to upgrade to process. That means if you do not have any idea on that particular circumstances, in that case the Windows setup will not going to permit you for the upgrade process. Okay. Hope I can have a brief view now. Now we can understand which of the version and how we can make the upgrade path. What is the upgrade path and how we can make the upgrades in place upgrade in Windows Server 2012 in this slide. Let's move to the next slide now. Preliminary procedure before upgrade. That means what are the main checkpoints you have to follow before performing upgrade task. So let's take a look. Consider the following before you perform any upgrade in Windows Server 2012. So these particular points are only applicable for Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2 only. The first thing you need to check is check the hardware compatibility. This is very important. Make sure that the server meets the minimum hardware requirement for Windows Server 2012. In some servers, if you have any experience in physical server handling, then you can have an idea that some servers do not support Windows Server 2012. So before do any in-place upgrade, you have to ensure that the server hardware compatibility should be available. That means the particular hardware should support Windows Server 2012 and the minimum hardware requirement should be available there. The second thing is disk space. Before performing in-place upgrade, you have to make sure that there is sufficient free disk space available. So, as you know, 32 gig space is mandatory or minimum as per the Microsoft to install Windows Server 2012. The next part is confirm the software is signed. That means all the kernel mode software on the server. That means if you have a Windows Server 2008 R2 edition where you want to perform the in-place upgrade, so before upgrading, you have to make sure that the all kernel mode software should have signed software, including the device drivers, which have to be signed by the OEM. The next part is
Dada, I have a question. Kiranjit.
Yeah, please.
Yes. What is the advantage and disadvantage of digital signature or digitally signed?
Very good. You please take a note of this question. We will answer in Q&A session. Okay? Please take it.
Okay.
The next is save mass storage device on removable media. This is very important. If a manufacturer has supplied a separate driver for a device, in some cases you already know, in some cases we are using external drive or external USB drive, external CD drive to install media. So in that case, you have to ensure that the manufacturer has supplied separate driver for it. And before migrating, you should take a backup on your external drive, like USB, like DVD, CD, whatever you want. you should take a proper backup. Okay. The next thing is check application compatibility. So application compatibility is also an important part here. The setup programs display a compatibility report pages that can point out possibly application compatibility problems. Like I'm giving you an example. Suppose you are running a Windows Server application like a web server on it, which is currently using .NET version 2.0, and you are currently migrating that particular server to Windows Server 2012, and which is no longer support 2.0 .NET edition, .NET framework. So if you perform the in-place upgrade after migration, your application will no longer be accessible. So before do such type of thing, you should check the application compatibility properly, whether the application supports the latest version of .NET or not, whether they are compatible with any other version or not. So these are the checkpoints you have to do as an administrator before perform an in-place upgrade. So the next part is ensure computer functionality. So this is also important part. Make sure that the computer, that means Windows Server 2008 or Windows Server 2008 R2, is running properly. Properly means without any issue on its driver, on its application, on its phone, on the computer before beginning the upgrade process. So this is also a checkpoint. Okay. So before upgrading any server, before upgrade, you have to make sure that the current server which you need to upgrade, that should be in a perfect optimal state. So always perform the upgrade on a perfect optimal stage server. That means if you have a Windows Server 2008 running on a particular application and you want to migrate, before migrate you have to check the compatibility, storage, hardware specification, disk space availability, driver signed or not, and if everything goes on, everything is right, then only perform the migrate task. Next, perform a full backup. This is also a important part, and it could be available in all the scenario, in all the environment. Before doing any changes in your environment, always take a backup. Okay, always take a backup. That will help us to restore the data in case we face any difficulty, any issue during the migration. Okay. The next part is disable antivirus protection software. This is also important. Some of the antivirus, what they are doing, they have firewall component, they have IPS, they have Windows firewall protection and other things, which may block your migration during in-place migration. So before perform any in-place migration, in-place upgrade, it is recommended that you disable your virus protection software, that means antivirus software. The next part is disconnect the UPS device. This is also important thing. This is only applicable for the physical servers. Actually, if you have a uninterrupted power supply, which is known as UPS, connected on your target computer, that means server, disconnect the cable before perform the upgradation. Why? Because the setup is automatically attempt to detect the connected device. It is always keep in mind, if your computer or if your server is connected with uninterrupted power supply, that means UPS power, during that time if you want to upgrade, the setup will automatically attempt to detect the connected device on the server. And the UPS equipment can cause issue with this process. Why it is got creating an issue? Because sometimes some of the line UPS require some time drivers to identify the UPS. And in that case, during upgradation, if it found any connected device, it will find for the required driver. And if it is not available, in that case, you may face issue during the migration. Okay? And the last important point, always purchase a Windows Server 2012 license. before do any migration. So you should have a proper license in your hand before migration. In our last session, Deepu asked us about a question. That question was Windows Server 2008, if we do a migration from Windows Server 2008 to 2012, whether we need any license or not, right? So in that case, this is a clear statement that if your destination version is Windows Server 2012, so before migration, before upgrade, you should have a license in your hand. Hope we can have a brief idea about the preliminary procedure of upgradation of in 2012 server. Let's move to the next slide now. In this slide, we are going to cover migrating roles. Migration is the preferred method of replacing an existing server with a new server running with Windows Server 2012. Why migration is required? Why it is recommended? Why it is preferred? As you know, Windows 2003 server is no longer supported by the Microsoft. It is already expired. EOL, end of life, end of support product, by declaration by Microsoft. So suppose you working in an environment where you have 2003 server, and 2003 handles some critical business roles like file servers. So in that case, to make sure that your server is healthy, to make your server up to date, to protect your server data, you always have to perform migration. Instead, doing a new fresh configuration, migration is always preferred by the administrators or by the Microsoft. Unlike an in-place upgrade, a migration copies vital information from an existing server to a clean Windows Server 2012 installation. So, in some cases, you see, Microsoft always recommends to migrate copies of existing server to a clean server, a clean upgraded server. That means there is a let me simplify that one. So in place upgrade, you did not need any more server instance, right? So you can upgrade your operating system, your particular application in the same instance you are running in Windows Server 2012 or 2008 R2, etc. But Microsoft recommends before doing any migration, you should have a fresh Windows Server 2012 instance ready, and you should migrate the server role from the existing server to the new Windows Server 2012 instance. Instead doing a in-place upgrade. Okay, we will have a practical session on it to make a clear idea on what is in-place upgrade and what is migration, how we can do migration. So the next part is between versions. You can migrate data from any Windows Server versions from Windows Server 2003 SP2 to 2000 Server 2012. So if you do migrations, not in place upgrade, okay, I am not talking about in place upgrade here. I am talking about server migrations, role migration, feature migration, that kind of stuff. In case you are doing migration, in that case, you can have a feature to directly migrate your data from 2003 SP2 to 2012. But in this case, if you do in-place upgrade, that will not support it. That means in in-place upgrade, it will only support N-1. That means if you want to upgrade server in 2012, that last version that is supported for in-place upgrade is 2008. Okay. This includes migration from one server running in Windows Server 2012 to another. This is a very important thing of migration. So let's take a benefit. There is some benefit of using migration instead of in place upgrade. So let's see that between platforms. So migrations can be happen between platforms. You can migrate data from an x86 platform to a x64-bit server. This is a benefit. Okay, if you are doing migration instead of doing in place upgrade, in that case you can migrate your data from 32-bit operating system to 64-bit operating system. Next, between versions, you can migrate data between running different Windows editions. That means if you have Windows Server 2008 Enterprise Edition and you want to perform a migration on Windows Server 2012 Standard Edition, that is possible. But in case of upgrade, it is not possible. Between physical and virtual instance, this is also important thing. In modern server environment, you already know most of the environment are using virtualization solution like VMware, Citrix, Hyper-V. So they can migrate their data from physical to virtual or virtual to physical. Anything is possible in migration of data. Between installations, this is also important thing. The option you can migrate data from a server running in Windows Server 2008 R2 to a Windows Server 2012. Even the server is using Windows Server Core, that user can perform the migration from the GUI platform as well. So these are the benefits of migration. Okay. So in this slide, we have an idea about what is the difference between in-place upgrade and migration. Microsoft always recommends us to migrate the server roles and feature along with the data instead doing in-place upgrade. So in some cases, if we use migration task to do the migration of data, roles, and features of a server, so we will have some benefits, like we can do migration between different type of versions, like 2003 to directly to the 2012. Between platforms, that means we can have migrate our data from 32-bit to 64-bit as well. Between editions, that means if you want to migrate the data from Windows Server 2008 Enterprise to Windows Server 2012 Standard, it is also possible. And it supports physical and virtual instance migration. That means if you want to migrate your data or role or feature from any physical server to a virtual server, it is also supported. Between installation, if you have a core version of Windows Server 2012 and if you have UI platform of 2008 or 2, you want to migrate, this is also a possible thing in migration task. Okay. So let's move to the next slide. Hope this clarifies what is the difference between in-place upgrade and server migration. Let's take a look on the next slide. So in this slide, we will going to cover a brief idea about Windows Server Migration Tool. Windows Server Migration Tool, this is the first thing you have to know, that it is a feature of Windows Server 2012. Okay, and this is included in every instance of Windows Server 2012. If you can go to the Server Manage option and add feature option, at that particular point you will see Windows Server Migration Tools is available for you. What is this actually? It is not a MMC, it is a PowerShell CMDLets. Okay, it is a PowerShell CMDLets only. So if you install the particular feature, you will get a PowerShell command shell only. So from there you can migrate server roles, server data, everything. And it's something, it just looks like in the right side on the slide you can see how it is looks like, and how we can install the feature during our feature installation option. So let's begin and get some idea about Windows Server Migration Tool. Windows Server Migration Tool is a Windows Server 2012 feature that consists of PowerShell CMDLet and help file that enable administrator to migrate certain roles between servers. Hope this is very easy to understand that Windows Server Migration Tool in Windows Server 2012, this is a feature of Windows Server 2012, and it consists of PowerShell CMDLets, and it help administrators to manage migrate certain roles or feature between the servers. Before you use the migration tool, before you start using that, however, you must install the Windows Server Migration Tool feature on the destination server as well. That means if you want to migrate a data, suppose for example, I'm telling you that if you have a Windows Server 2008 R2 Standard Edition file server role installed in your environment, and you want to perform a migration on Windows Server 2012 standard. So if you want to install the migration tool on Windows Server 2012, that will not work. You should have the migration tool installed on the source server. That means in our example, that is Windows Server 2008 R2 standard, which is used as a file server. And then copy the appropriate version of tools to the source server of Windows Migration Tool is standard feature that you install on Windows Server 2012 using the add role and feature wizard in server manager. So we will going to take a look during our practical session. As of now, this is a brief view of Windows Server Migration Tool. Okay. So suppose you want to migrate file server, you want to migrate DHCP, you want to migrate DNS or any other tool. However, Windows Server Active Directory Migration needs a different tool that is called Active Directory Migration Tool. That is different from the server migration. But in this migration tool, you can get a PowerShell CMDLet, which is help administrator to migrate certain roles, not all the roles, certain roles from source to the destination Windows Server 2012 server. Let's take a look on the next slide. What we discuss today. So we discuss about Microsoft release of all of these operating system in multiple editions, which provide customers with variety of price points and feature sets. And in-place upgrade is the most complicated form of Windows Server 2012 installation. It is also a lengthiest process as well, and the most likely causes problem during execution. So we would have a knowledge and experience before do a production in-place upgrade. This is the only thing I want to make you understand in this particular thing. Wherever possible, Microsoft recommends that administrator perform a clean installation or migrate required application and setting instead. That means instead of doing in-place upgrade, Microsoft always recommends to have a clean installation of a server and then migrate your role, feature or data, whatever you want. Migration is preferred method of replacing an existing server. So this is one of the important part we have discussed in our today. So we discuss about migration. So migration is a preferred method of replacing an existing server with one running on Windows Server 2012. Unlike in-place upgrade, a migration copies video information from an existing server to a clean Windows Server 2012 installation. So What I want to say is migration is preferred method by all. So instead doing in place of grade, you can create a new server instance and do your migration using Windows Server Migration tool to migrate your server roles from one server to another server, and by this you can easily replace the existing outdated server from your environment. Okay, this is the summary of today. As of now, in this particular whole slide, we have discussed about the different do's and don'ts before upgrading, which about the Microsoft version, which version are supported for the in-place upgrade, direct upgrade or not. And we have discussed about the in-place upgrade and its complexity. We discussed about the migration and its benefit and what are the things we can migrate. And we also discussed about something about Windows Server Migration tool, which is a very important tool to migrate certain role from existing server to the new server in Windows Server 2012. So we attain the practical session now. Before go to the practical session, I would like to ask you about the Q&A. Okay, guys, if you have any doubts, please ask me on the wall. Okay, guys, let's start. In this session, as we discussed in our theory session, we have to migrate a Windows Server file server role using Windows Server Migration tool. So let's see how we can migrate. We have our test lab ready. Let me take you to the Windows Server 2008 R2 edition, where we have to configure a file server role first. This is a Windows Server 2008 R2 edition, fresh edition, just installed in some time back before the class. So let's start it. This is the current configuration details of the server. We installed a RTM version. That means we installed a eval version of Windows Server 2008 R2 edition in here. So before do so, we have checked that firewall is on. There is no role installed. There is no feature installed. So we have to install our first role, that is file server here. So I'm going to click on the add role. Go to the next option. And here I can get the file services. I'm going to select the file services role and click on the next. This is the introduction of file server. The file services provide technologies that help manage storage, enable file replication, manage share folders, etc., etc. So we are going to use file share in this class. So I'm going to click on the next option. So in this particular role expands option, we only need file server role because we are going to migrate only the file server. So it is already selected. File server is already selected. So I'm going to click on the next option. So it is the confirmation screen that we are going to install only a single role, that is called file server, and hit install option. As you can see, Windows automatic update is not enabled. That's why you are getting a warning message. As this is a test environment, so we can ignore this error, warning message now. For the particular role, there is a installation available. So the following role has been installed successfully, that is file server. Now we are going to close this tab and close this as well. So here we have to check whether the role is installed or not. As you can see, under role we have file services installed and it is ready. We can now do a share of our own server. So let's take a look how we can start sharing. We already go to the share and storage management. Let's take you to the provisions here. Browse for the location we want to share. Under C drive we have created a folder called share. Let's share this folder only. So we have selected the folder here. Click on the next. Here we have the option of NTFS permissions. So let's set some manual NTFS permission here. Going to edit it. So as you can know, this is the default permission set. One is creator, owner, system, administrator and user. Let's add some more users, that is domain users. So we are going to add permissions for domain users. Under domain users we cannot allow modify here. So read and write will be there, but modify will not be there. Okay, and we are going to add another thing, that is domain admins. So domain has been added and I'm going to put a full permission on this here and click on the apply button and then next. Okay, so we have set our NTFS permission here. We have to click on the next button. Now it is share. We already enabled the SMB share for this particular name of share. So click on the next button. Share will be available in this path. So if we want, we can copy it and let's take a look, and we have to take a notepad open, okay, and save it here. So after the share provision we can check. Next. So now SMB settings can be specified here. Under advanced option we can set the user limit. Currently it is set as maximum allowed. We can set the number of users by using this. Caching, we have to put caching as a off mode so that it cannot be available in offline. So we have turned off the caching here. So click on the next. Now SMB permission, this is called a share permission, okay. So administrator full, other have read only, or you can specify using this. Go to the permission option. Everyone only have the read only permission, and you can add here domain admin, sorry, So here we can get domain admins from the Active Directory and we can select OK, and for domain admin we can give them a full share access and save it. So we have set a manual SMB share permissions and click on the next button. And if we want to have a DFS namespace, in that case we have to publish this SMB to DFS namespace, but in this case we have not enabled the DFS namespace, that's why we can skip this. So this is the summary what we are doing, what are the permission we have allowed. As you can see, on the domain we have allowed full control, and domain users we can allow read and execute, and system have full control, administrator have full control, and user have only read and execute. Whereas in SMB, we have everyone read and domain administrator has a full control. So click on create. As you can see, we are now successfully provision SMB share now in this server. So our file server is configured and we are able to start provision our shares. So let me take you to the server share drive, which we have done just earlier. Go to the My Computer, go to the C drive. Under this share option, if you can go, I have already copied some files. These are the sample files we have copied so that after the migration we can able to understand whether the migration has successfully done or not. Before migration, we have to check a file properties. Go to the security option. As you can see, domain admin has been already added here with the full control permission. Right? So after migration, we have to check it whether this has been migrated with all the details or not. So this is the first thing. This is the prerequisites. The source server should have file server configured. We have done that, right? So now we have to allow certain TCP and UDP ports on Windows Firewall. Okay. So what is the port? The port is 7000 TCP and UDP. Okay. So this port actually 7000 TCP or 7000 UDP. That is the port number which is basically going to be used for server migration, server role migration. So before start the migration, we have to prepare the server properly. So we have to add some rule in firewall to allow 7000 port. So let's go ahead, go to the run option and type the firewall.cpl. On the left, we have the option of allow program and feature through Windows Firewall. Allow another program. We have option. We can have, let me check whether server migration is here or not. There is no server migration allowed. So cancel it. Let me take you to the advanced setting. Go to the inbound rule and create a new, this is the source server, so we have to create a outbound rule. That means from this server the migration will happen. So we have to create a outbound rule. So you can select a port option. TCP is already selected, so you have put 7000 port here. Click on the next. You have to click on allow this connection, and it is allowed for domain, private and public, all the networks. Yes. You have to put a name of this rule, server migration TCP. So let me copy this so that every time I can paste it. So it is, as you can see, it is already here. So let me create another for UDP as well. It is actually similar. Go to the UDP 7000 port and select the UDP here. Click on the next. Allow this connection. Click on the next. Allowed for all. Put the name UDP and finish it. So the basic thing has been allowed. Server, we have enabled the 7000 port on the firewall for outbound connections in the source server. So let me take you to the fresh Windows Server 2012 instance where we are going to migrate the file server role. Okay guys, this is the server prepared, ready for the migration. As you can see, this is a fresh server just installed before the classes. So now we have to prepare the server, this server for the migration. So before do so, we have to go to the firewall, Windows firewall, and let me allow the 7000 port here as well. In this server, we have to enable the inbound port for 7000. It is a quite similar process we are follow. Allow this connection, yes. Roman, okay. And we have to put the name. Sam put the same name here as well, so that after migration we can delete the firewall rule if needed. Now we select the UDP and 7000, click on next, allow the connection, all the networks. Now put the name as UDP and click on the finish option. So firewall rule has been added. Now we have to prepare the server for the migration. So we have to install the Windows Server migration feature as well as file server role here as well. So we are going to install it from the manage option. Under manage, you can have an option of add roles and feature. Go to add roles and feature option. Click on the next option, role based installation. Server is already selected. The server name is Win2K12-SS for file server. Click on the next, and here we will have a option of file server. Let me take you to the file server. We have to select the file server role here as well, and click on the next. Now we have to do certain thing, that is Windows Server Migration Tool. As you can see here, we can get Windows Server Migration Tool. This is the feature we are looking for. So Windows Server Migration Tool is available here. Click on the migration tool, hit in the next. Click on the install option. It will give us the CMD-late access for Windows Server 2012 migration tool. Post installation of file server and Windows feature, will have to create a packager for Windows Server 2008 R2 edition, from where we can have to migrate our server. So guys, let it be installed fast. I am giving you a, let me open the notepad so that I can give you the command which is required to create a packager. Just hold on. Let it finish fast. So the command we are going to use here is This is the command we are going to use. Okay, it is done. This is the command which is required. Guys, you can take a note. Guys, you can take a note here. The command that we are going to use here is this, to create a packager. So before creating a packager, as you can see, installation has been completed on this 2012 server. So let's go to the tools option. And as you can see, Windows Server Migration Tools is available now. If you can go and click on the Windows Server Migration Tool, it will give you a command prompt only. Okay. So let me navigate to the installation place of the Windows Server feature. Sorry, I missed. Under Windows, we have to find System 32. Under System 32, you can find yes, Server Migration Tool. So under Windows 32, you can find a Server Migration Tool. So just click on Shift and open the command from here, and you can follow the particular. This is the SMIG deploy packager, which is required to create a packager for Windows Server 2008 R2 edition. So let me do it. SMIG deploy slash package slash architecture. We have to select the architecture here. Okay. So on architecture, we have to select AMD 64. Why we are selecting AMD 64? I'm going to tell you, because the 2008 server from where we are going to migrate, this is also a 64-bit edition server. So for 64-bit edition, we are using this particular option of AMD 64. This is a 64-bit edition. Okay. So that's why we are going to use AMD 64 here. Now we have to specify the OS. OS is WS08R2. For Windows Server 2008 R2, we have to select the OS version of Windows Server WS08R2. And now we have to select the path where we want to create the package. Let me give the path of C package. Okay guys, as you can see, after hitting enter, it is showing that SMIG deploy is copying Windows Migration Tool to C packages, and it has been created SMT_WA08R2 underscore AMD64. Let's go to this particular folder and let's see what is actually created there. So go to my computer, go to the C drive, and we can see here there is a packager which is available. So this is the packager file created. We have created that. So now our next task will be to copy this packager to the source machine. So let me copy it here and let me take a shared drive access so that I can get it, because we have already enabled share for the server, right? So we should have access from here. Let me check. When to K8R2 hyphen SS and hit enter. Now we can able to share the share folder. Oh my God, everything is here, right? So let me paste my packager here. Oh great, packager has been moved. So now we have to go to the next machine, that means source machine here. Again we are in the 2008 R2 edition. So let me close the firewall setting. Let me close it here. Don't save. Now we have to go in my computer, and under C drive we can have to go to the share option, and we can see the transferred file is available here now. So let me cut this file from this particular folder and make it available in the C drive. So as you can see, now the files are here, right? So now we have to do SMIG deploy. That packager will be used to deploy the server migration tool in this server. So what we can do, we can just select our shift from the keyboard and right click on it so that the command prompt option will be glow, and we start the command prompt from here. Now if we click on the SMIG deploy.exe and hit enter, it will automatically install. As you can see, this is the new command prompt, and in the previous command prompt, as you can see, SMIG deploy is already checked the prerequisites, and SMIG deploy is requesting Windows Server Migration Tool CMD on Windows PowerShell, and it has been completed successfully on this server. So let's check whether the file server migration tool has been migrated, its setup on this server or not. Let's go to the administrative tools, and the top you can see here we can get Windows Server Migration Tool ready, right? So now the next part is, now we have to start the migration, right? So to start the migration, we have to go to the destination server, that is Windows Server 20, and we have to open the Windows Server Migration Tool. Under this tool, we can put the following command set to get the updates from the server. Okay, that is called hold on guys, I think it is get hanged. Okay, great. So this is the command to initiate the migration process from the destination server. So receive SMIG server data. This is the command by which you can start initiating the process. It will ask you for a password. Before put a password, make sure you should remember this password during migration, because it will require when you start the same command on the source server. So So in this case, I am giving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a password. As you can see, starting data migration process, it will opening the connection on the source server, right? It will take some time to open the connection and it will get ready. Okay, let it be. Let me take you to the destination server so that we can initialize the rest of the process. So to go to the 2008 server, so this is the source server. We have to close this commandlet and this commandlet as well. So we can start a server migration tool in a fresh way. So go to administrator templates and open the server migration tool here. It is open now. Now guys, we have to send the data from here. The process is send SMIG server data, computer name, that means the destination computer name, the destination computer name is Win2K12-FS. Before do so, let me confirm that. Okay, let me ping Win W2K12-FS. Win2K12. So I think the ICMP is blocked in firewall. That will not create any issue for us. So we have identified that Win2K12 is the name. Now we have to select the source path. Source path is C share, where we can get it. As you can see, under C drive, we have created a share, that is C share. Now we have to put destination path is also will be the C share, the same path. Reuse, include all, and now I have to press host. When you get this done, you click on enter, it will ask again the same password. So I am giving you the same password here as well. So once it is done, it will start sending the data. As you can see, data has been sent over the network. This is the summary that following data has been copied successfully. All the shares and files all are done. Okay, everything is done now. So let me take you to the Windows Server 2012 here. So I have written down the commandlet here for your reference. Okay, this will be creating the package. Send the migration data from 2K8R to 2K12. Okay, so let me take you to the 2K12 server. So we have done that. Let me close this window and minimize that. Let's take you to the My Computer option. Under C drive, Oh my God, now we have share folder available here. And if we on OK, we have all the files as well. Great, we have all the files as well. So let me check the permissions. On the share permission, let me check first. Oh my God, everyone and domain admin both are now migrated. That means in this Windows migration tool, we not only migrate a file share, we have migrated its security principles as well. So whatever permission set in the previous server, that means in 2008 R2, that has been already copied to this particular server. Let me check in the security tab so that security permissions are there or not. Let me go to the advanced option. Oh great, as you can see, domain admin is already available. If you can edit that, it has full control, which we have set in the previous server. So guys, as you can see in this video, we see how to migrate using a file server role from Windows Server 2008 R2 edition to Windows Server 2012 edition. And we have done this migration with Windows Server Migration Tool, which is a Windows Server 2012 feature. And using this tool, we have successfully not only migrated data from Windows Server 2008 R2, although we have also migrated the security principles, share permissions, NTFS permissions as well. So guys, this is all for today. If you have any doubts, any queries, or anything in your mind, please raise your hand, or you can ask me on the chat wall so that I can give you the answer on it. Don't forget to give your feedback on this practical classes. Hope you learn about something new in this class about server role migrations. So this is very critical for every administrator to perform any migration in any environment. So before doing a migration, please take it very seriously and practice it very well in your lab. Let me know if any support or help required during the migration of roles. Okay, thanks for today. Let's begin our Q&A now. Okay, thank you.